Welcome to OMJJ Pop-Up Podcast. We are so excited today. I'm Jessica, and this is my host, co-host, Josh.
Host, co-host.
Co.
I'm now playing tennis. Now I'm winning Wimbledon.
Y'all should have saw him out on a tennis court the other day. We ain't gonna go there. But
I can play tennis.
let's move on.
There's very few things I can't do.
He can climb a gate too, like a spider.
I got up that monkey gate, didn't I? That gate won't get the best of me. I'm better than the gate. I'm the gate master.
He got up that gate like a spider monkey. I was very impressed
Too
with how old
easy.
he was.
Too easy.
Oh my goodness.
Now coming down was tricky.
Coming down. I said, if he missed what a hole. That would have been the end of his life.
Don't go chasing
ground,
waterfalls.
He would have hit that ground so hard. Oh,
It was. I tried to play it out because I fell up against the fence. I said, play it out. You ain't tired. I was so tired.
Josh was out there. He was out there juggling. He was coming gates like a spider monkey.
I was auditioning for
Venus
Universal
and
Circus.
Serena Williams at the same time on the tennis court. Sometimes y'all just gotta be out here.
OMJJ.
We enjoy having fun in life. This is what happens when you're single. You can do these kind of things. Anywho, so today we're gonna ignore all the smacking he got going on over there.
Oh, my bad. I do smack.
But we're gonna talk about react versus respond. And so today's topic is in relation to parenting. So sometimes parents, and we wouldn't know because we don't have children.
I know.
But I've seen kids in the classroom, and I have 15 godchildren. So I got
15 godchildren.
I'm up there when it comes to knowing a
kids?
little bit about kids. You ain't got to have kids to know things. But anywho,
That is a fact.
That is a fact. And so the react versus response when it comes to parenting is what we want to talk about today. And so I'm going to give an example. I remember when one of my good friends' son came home and told her that he was having a baby.
Say what? How old?
17.
Son of a black ball.
And had just finished high school himself and was on his way to college. So that's the whole scenario. We'll just throw the whole thing out there. And so what ended up happening was, instead of her snapping and being upset,
was she upset though?
She was. But what I liked about how graceful her reaction was to the child was to be supportive and to, identify a solution versus only seeing the problem. So let's talk about that for a second though. How would you feel if you had a child and that situation happened? Like, what is the best way to address that particular news?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
Tricky, sticky.
I don't know if there's necessarily a best way.
Okay.
There's a good way and there's a better way.
Okay.
And there's definitely a bad way.
Okay. So do the good, better, best.
Well, okay, so how you want to deal with this situation, you have to do a lot of mental processing. When you get news that rubs you the wrong way, no matter what time of the day, no matter who the person is telling, you have to learn how to respond versus react to the information.
Okay.
Now,
what's the difference?
Respond is you don't automatically jump to a conclusion off of what somebody tells you. And, well, you may jump to that conclusion, but you don't show it. Mm-hmm. So if somebody said something, excuse me, you said the son said, I'm having a baby. if the mother would have said, "What is wrong with you? What do you mean you're having a baby? You're only 17 years old. You're not old enough to raise no kid." Da 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 da. That's automatically reacting.
Okay.
Responding is, okay, have you figured out what you're going to do? Do you have a plan? Do you have an idea? And if not, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Now, the challenge is, and so many parents tell me this, Josh, you don't understand, you can't do that with kids, man. When they hit you, you got to have an answer right away. And you got to be stern, you got to be straight up. Because if you let them know that you're cool with it, they feel like they're going to do whatever they want. That's not true. That's not true at all. How the human brain works, it's set up in such a way that if I give you something, I want you to receive it. I don't want you to throw it back in my face.
Okay.
Because if you throw it back in my face, I'm not going to want to give you anything.
Ever again.
So if you react in a negative way toward the child's going to be like, I'm not going to be able to do anything freely with my life and share it with my parents. So it will create that bond. And you said that she did not overreact. She just had a conversation. She said, blah, blah. Now, fast forward. How is the son doing now?
Great. He's doing good in college. Instead of him going away to school, the first year, he had no choice. You already registered. He just went through that. But then he just came back home after the second year and went to a local college.
How's the baby doing?
Baby's good.
How's the baby's mama doing?
Good, as far as I know.
Now, what about the boy's father? Is he in his life at all?
No.
Okay. So the only parent that the boy really has is the mother.
Yeah.
So if the mother would have overreacted, the son could have felt like there's no place else for me to go. And I can't go to my mom because she already snapped on me. So you have to think about this. And it's a process, parents. And it's not hard. People say, man, Josh, you don't know how hard it is. No. You got to look at the overall long-term benefit. You have to look at, if I do this right in this circumstance, it'll help other circumstances be a lot easier down the line. So there are steps to respond versus react.
Okay.
My first thing I suggest, and these are all suggestions, you want to practice in the mirror your straight face. Your straight face. Okay? Sure.
Like he just did.
Yeah. Okay. Really? Wow. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Good. Bad. No? Keep the straight face. Almost like a poker face. Now, if you have that emotion where you want to react, you have to hold it until the child leaves the room. Or you have to not show your face. So you have to go somewhere, and after, if she found out the boy got pregnant and whatever.
The boy got pregnant?
I mean, the girl got pregnant. Well, the boy had he did some work in it.
I'm just saying. Whoa.
Yeah, this ain't the boy's not. He's not a seahorse. So if she does have some challenges with that, you have to hold them in until he leaves the room.
Okay.
Then you can go to your own room or someplace else and scream and yell as loud as you want.
Okay.
But you don't want to show your emotion, especially if it's negative, to the child, no matter the age, because they automatically shut down. The main reason people tell me so much, and I get told a lot of information from sometimes people I've never met. I'm just sitting in the doctor's office or waiting to get my phone fixed and people just run him out. The main reason it happens is because I don't react to it. I've been told some crazy stuff. And as soon as they leave the room, I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, did I just hear? Lord have mercy. You got to be joshing me. So I will overreact after they leave, but okay. I'm just straight face. And what happens is it builds a certain bridge of communication that the person who gives you the information, they'll feel comfortable with telling you anything. Now, the reason this is important is because if the child, say the son, will have the baby, if he did something else and he was ashamed of it or felt bad about it or tried to hide it, he wouldn't want to tell the mother if she reacted the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. But is wrong a matter of perception? So here's the other side to it. So let's say she did not respond or react. She responded, so that's the situation. But what if the boy wanted her to have more emotion or wanted her to be a little bit more, I guess, dramatic? How do you deal with that?
Usually, when somebody tells you some information, they want you to do one of two things.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of them?
Respond.
They want you to respond, but for you to respond, you have to do what? Bing, bing, bing. Listen. You have to listen. And if you're reacting, you're not really listening.
Right.
So somebody gives you the information. You have to absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody gives you, oh yeah, Mom, I'm having a baby. Oh, you're having a baby. Interesting.
I hate when people do that.
But you're not reacting. Okay. See, now, even though, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Give me some craziness. Say you my daughter.
Josh, I'm having your baby.
My baby? You my daughter. How you having my baby? What the funnel cake? You don't understand how the process of the game goes. And how you having a baby with me? We ain't did nothing.
Josh, I'm having your baby.
No, you're not having my baby.
Just play along.
Oh, okay.
You're supposed to be doing the tackle and role play.
Okay. This is a different kind of
play.
play.
We done changed all colors over here. Immaculate conception.
Oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead.
Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you something.
Okay.
I'm pregnant.
Okay.
And I'm having your baby. Y'all kidding?
Now listen. My face is straight,
but
I haven't.
Y'all saw how he just.
But listen.
Non-verbal communication means a lot to me. But
listen, I did say, no, you're not having my baby.
Your throat said it.
You was looking at my throat. Everybody's looking at my throat. Do it again. Let's do it again. That caught me off guard. How about
listen, y'all. If you ever have watched Aliens or Predator, when they swallow and they just get all big, going down their throat, that's what his throat just did. It's okay. Now he turning red.
Okay.
Immaculate conception, Josh.
Yeah, about that. Okay, so let's do it again. Do it again. I'm gonna do it right this time.
You gonna do it right this time.
You're not playing fair.
Josh, I have to tell you something.
Okay.
I don't know how to say it, but I'm pregnant with your child.
With my child.
Your child.
Joshua Peltier's baby.
JP.
Okay.
The Josh effect.
Okay. What are you gonna do about it?
Have it.
You certain that's what you want to do?
I'm 6 months. It's a little late.
Okay. Still, it may seem cray, but I am not reacting. I'm still digesting everything that she's told me.
But it's in fact true, because when someone is talking to you, you have to take the time to really take in everything that's being said to you.
Yeah. You
cannot, like you said, half listen. So you heard a part, then you gotta respond. You hear a little bit more, then you gotta respond. You do something else, and then you're gonna react. So eventually, your lack of listening is going to turn into something that has escalated the situation. So I mean, even if so, that could have been easily your child coming to you, rather a daughter versus a son. You know, that's a whole nother situation. And here's what I think a lot of parents need to take into consideration on top of what Josh is saying. At the end of the day, you're speaking to your child. They're still a child. And so oftentimes what I find with people who have children, when the child makes what they consider are adult-like behaviors, is when that parent reacts differently to that child.
Okay, we can talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up. That's good. We're gonna talk about that.
How do you deal with that? So a child is a child, a minor. Let's just go minor versus 18 and older being an adult.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna get to that. I like that. That's awesome.
Go for it.
But let's just wrap up the respond react thing. Yeah.
You want to try that?
No, we ain't doing no more. Because I was doing the math. Because 6 months, that means we had the burr 7 months ago?
Yeah.
What was I at 7 months ago? Oh, okay. So, the respond versus react, you have to think of whatever the situation is, good or bad, how can it be best handled for the future? In other words, if you're in a situation where it's a bad situation, you only make it worse if you react.
Mm-hmm.
If you respond, you have a better chance of not necessarily fixing the situation, but at least corralling it to where you can handle it at a much easier way.
Manageable.
It's very more manageable. Very good.
Yeah.
If you respond. So my advice is, I'm trying to give advice, a suggestion, practice responding. It opens up the door, especially for young people, to increase their level of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Because now they're at a space where they can express freely to you no matter what comes to them. And if you can express freely, it opens the door for the brain to expand. The challenge is when kids do stuff and they're forever hiding stuff from their parents, and the parent says, I had no idea my child was like that.
I want to talk about that when you're done.
It's so many parents that come to me and say, Josh, did you know my son was this so and so? I said, I had, some feelings, and I saw how he acted, that he was that type of person. I had no idea he was like that. I said, that's because he's hiding who he is from you. And you think that's healthy, but he is afraid of how you will react.
Right.
Instead of respond.
I agree.
And I have a scenario, but go ahead. I'm going to tell you something. Somebody told me this on Saturday.
Well, what you're saying is when two things in relation to what you're saying. So one thing is there's trust there. So that child trusts you enough to bring that conversation to you. And then secondly, you're allowing that open expression so that child can articulate what they're experiencing. So by them being able to, one, be mature enough to come to you to have the conversation, and then you're responding versus reacting, you're allowing that child to have an open relationship with you where they feel like, if I'm going through something heavy like this, I can come to my mom or dad.
Yes.
And I think that's the other side that a lot of parents don't see, is when these type of things happen with your children, you start yelling at them and stressing it and all this stuff. And like he said, when you hide it, it allows for that child to not be personally responsible for what they just told you, giving them the mindset of, whew, I'm relieved of this information.
Yes.
But if they see you stressing and you're angry and you're mad and all that, unfortunately, you're putting some unnecessary pressure on that child, and on top of that, they're losing trust.
Yes, because I've had students come up to me and say, Ms. Peltier, I didn't do good on my test. I was like, okay, so let your parents know. He said, no, I can't let her know. My mother she gonna kill me if she find out. Yeah. Well, she's gonna find out eventually. Mm-hmm. So you have to let her know. He said, Josh, you don't understand. You don't understand. So now he's afraid to tell how he messed up on his test, and this is gonna hinder him from learning in the future. So you got to be very mindful. In my workshops and I'm in my after school classes, I do all kind of R versus R training with the young people, ages 3 to 4 to 5. I'm third to fifth grade. I'm getting all these numbers mixed up. 3rd to 5th graders. We have R versus R conversations all the time, because I tell them if they can control how they react to certain situations and respond, it'll stop them from getting placed in other situations when they get older. Mm-hmm. So it's very important. I'm gonna tell this quick story.
Go for it.
I met with a parent this weekend, and he explained to me how his son was smoking the herbalisms in his house. Y'all might know it as the reefers, depending on how old you is, and the weedies. And he went off. He cussed the boy out. He said, "You better not be smoking no weed in my mother." He said, "What made you think you could smoke weed up in this place?" He went off on the boy. And I said, "Was that the proper way to handle it?" He said, "Yeah, he ain't smoked weed up in there ever again." I said, "Never, ever. He ain't never smoked weed in my house again." I said, "Okay, is there any other way you could have handled it?" He said, "No, that was the best way." I was like, "Okay. What happened to the boy?" He said, "What you mean what happened to him?" I said, "Did he ever smoke weed again?" "Oh yeah, he smoked it again." I said, "How do you know he smoked weed again?" He said, "Because he got busted by the police." I said, "Really?" I said, "What happened?" He said he was outside smoking weed at the park, and a cop drove by and saw him smoking weed. He was high, so he really wasn't paying attention. And the police officer locked him up. And he said, when he went to go pick him up, he said, "Son, what's wrong with you? Why are you out here smoking weed in the park?" He said, "Dad, you told me never ever to smoke weed in your house again." He said, so I said, "Well, let me go outside to the park." And the father was looking at him like, I really can't be mad at him.
You can't say anything, and that's the harder part of being a parent is if you ain't learned nothing else. And I've seen it over and over. I worked in the prisons with kids, everything, drug and alcohol, mental health facilities, everything. The one thing that's going to be a life lesson is that moment when that child is going to say to you, "Well, you said X, Y, Z."
Yeah.
Ain't nothing worse than that. You
Yeah.
know? And so that's the other part to it. So how you respond is going to come out again later.
Yes.
I don't care what you do. I don't care if it's positive or negative.
Yes.
It's going to be instilled in that child's mind. And don't think because as they get older, I know they say most kids stop learning at a certain age, but no, if you're continually learning throughout life, that child's going to go back to that moment when you said X, Y, Z, and they going to quote you like it's a Shakespeare play.
Yep.
And then what you going to do?
He couldn't do nothing. And the father felt really bad about that. And I said to him, I said, "Well, did you want him to smoke weed again?" "No, I want him to not smoke weed ever again in his life." I was like, "But that's not what you communicated to him."
Exactly.
What he heard was, well, my father's mad at me for smoking weed in my house.
Yeah.
He wasn't bothered or mad that I was smoking weed.
Period.
He was just so angry that I was smoking in his house.
Right.
So I said, what happens is, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna smoke weed then, but I ain't gonna do it in your house." Bet.
Right.
Bet that. Bet. Ain't no problem with
I
that.
hear you loud
Say
and
no
clear.
more.
Yeah.
Say no more.
Say less.
And then he got arrested, and the father felt really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I said, well, a lot of parents don't know, and that's understandable. And, sometimes we just reacting or acting the way our parents taught us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a cycle. So you can't all the way be mad at him. But if you understand the challenges, you can't go back and do the same thing. Because, I said, you want him to stop smoking weed. I said, how else could you have handled it? He said, looking back on it, I probably could have set him down and explained to him why it's bad to be smoking weed.
Yeah.
I could have had a conversation with him. I said, because if you have a conversation, it can't be worse than what he already did.
Right.
Because he already did the crime.
Right.
You can still punish him. Right. You can still let him know this is not right and whatever, and ground him whatever you want to do. But now he won't be trying to do stuff other places because of how you made him feel.
Yeah. Or, the worst thing you can experience is your children doing things behind your back.
Yes. And I know plenty of kids that do that.
And that's the worst part. Get to the example you said earlier when you talked about the parents like, "Did you know? I had no idea don't be that parent.
Don't be that parent.
You don't have to be. I mean, and you don't have to spy on your children.
Yes, you do. Well, you don't have to, but
I'm not talking about invading privacy at all times.
If I had kids, I invade all their privacy.
Well,
there wouldn't be no doors in my house.
I get
That's just me.
What I'm saying is in the respect of allowing your child rope to make mistakes.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Right.
So yeah, you should watch your children. You should know what's going on. I don't care what it is. You got to watch your children because it's too much stuff going on out here in the world for you not to be watching your children.
Good. That's a good point.
And so the respond thing though allows for you to have teachable moments with your children versus I'm the authority, that that child parent dynamic.
Yes.
That I'm the adult, you're the child, and you're supposed to listen. That will never work because in other scenarios, when that child gets older, they're going to always remember I'm supposed to be what they call inferior.
Yes.
To whomever may have a one up on me, if that makes sense. So rather that's in a work environment, school environment. So it just turns into something so much deeper than I think a lot of parents recognize. And even now, a lot of the kids that I had, they're grown now. All the kids that may have been in the prison system when I worked at the detention centers, they're grown now. And I think one thing they can say about me is that I treated them with respect. And I think that's the issue with parents who yell at their children all the time and have that authoritative approach is they're not respecting that their child is human too.
Yes. But the flip side of that, there are instances and there will be situations where you must react.
Oh, yeah.
You don't always have time to respond.
Yeah.
So
give an example of that.
If you have let's say you got a 12-year-old son. He's walking with his phone and he's texting and he's walking, but he's about to step into the middle of the street and a car is coming.
Yeah.
You don't have enough time to dissect the situation and what's going to happen. What should I say and what do I do? Your reaction should be, Billy, stop, or something.
Yeah.
And let him know whatever. So there will be instances where reaction is necessary.
Yeah. So I agree with you about the phone conversation. And so that is absolutely a react situation. It's for the safety of the child.
Yes.
I'm going to give an example that I experienced. My mom used to have us be babysitted by our neighbor. And so one night, the neighbor didn't know, but my brother and I, we were playing with fire in the house. And so my mom, this may be borderline child abuse, but she came back and she says, you see how long your sister hair is? Imagine if her hair would have burnt off. Give me your hand. And she took our hands and she took a lighter to it just so you could feel the heat. To prove a point to us, you could have burnt your whole body. Did you think that was hot? And it wasn't on our hand very long, but it was just enough. You felt the heat. And so even when, I had examples of, me carrying hot mugs of hot water, and I had burnt my whole chest because I was playing around with the hot water in my hand and the water splashed back on me. And so my mom was like, she yelled at me. She was like, what are you doing? And it was too late because by that time the water had, I tripped and fell because I was playing around. And so there's going to be situations where it's appropriate. And I'm not even going to say that even a fire thing, but even with the water situation, had I not been playing around, I would have never burnt my chest with this hot water.
Yes.
And so you got to be careful.
Yeah, and I talk to parents who say, but Josh, you don't understand my kids. And you gotta react. If you they don't go for that nice stuff. They're not about that. And I say, I understand that process, but it's the only reason they don't go for it is because they're not accepting it from you. When I do it to them, they have no problem.
Right.
They have no challenges with it because I'm coming to them the same way all the time. If you want the respond methodology to transpire, you have to continue to do it the same way.
Consistency.
You have to be very consistent with it. It's not going to happen overnight. They still might act up afterwards. They still may do whatever. But you still need to keep that same level of understanding, because how children's brains work, and we're going to talk about that. How they work is they don't do stuff for themselves. So if a child gets an A or he does well on the test, he's excited because he wants to go show it to who?
Mom and dad.
The parent. The parent then gives him some communication. Oh, this is wonderful. The child's like, wow, you think so? I need to get more A's so I can impress the parent.
Mm-hmm. That's fact.
So children want to do stuff to honor their parents. Now, if children don't act out, if they do act out and they do cause all kind of ruckus and get in trouble, it's not necessarily a testament or a testimony that the parents weren't good parents. There may be some disconnect with how the parent and the child communicated. Mm-hmm. And that's really tough when you have a parent who's a single parent who has multiple children.
Yeah. That's
so difficult. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, you said something earlier about how the parent talks to the child as if they are an adult.
Right.
What did you mean by that?
For starters, let's go back to that same scenario with the child coming home saying that they got somebody pregnant. I think sometimes in the moment of disappointment from a parent, they start to talk to that child. It's like they're in that adult moment. So when you kind of associate certain activities with adulthood, they then take it to that moment. So that child saying, I got somebody pregnant. Oh, so you think you grown now? Oh, so you can have babies now? It's just, being continually nurturing throughout interactions with children make a really big difference in the trust factor that's going both ways, because I personally feel like the way that you respond to that child is because you trust, one, your parenting capabilities, but two, how that child is going to receive that information. And so if you tell somebody they grown, you just planted a little seed in that child's head. Oh, well, I got to go do what I got to do to take care of my family, because the way that and now you done created another kind of reaction from that child,
Yeah, that's good.
It's a lot.
That's you saying something very, very powerful. Because these adults, not all of them, but a lot of them, they talk to their children like they have a 401k plan.
Right.
They talk to their children like they're paying taxes and they have a car note. Mm-hmm. You can't do that.
Right.
The child has not gone through the same situations that you have that have developed you into the adult that you are.
Right.
The child does not process information the same way you do. So you have to come back and communicate it in such a way where it makes sense what you're saying to the child. The child does not automatically understand what you're saying.
Right.
So a lot of times when parents say, you know what I'm saying? You understand what I mean? The child's like, yeah, but he really doesn't.
Right.
Because you're looking at it through your perspective.
Right.
He's looking at it through his perspective. It's like, just think about it. If a parent is 6 foot and a child is 4'3", that's just for, I'm an analogy king, by the way. And the parent is like, you see the mountain? The child can't see the mountain because he's too short.
Right.
He's like, you understand? You see where that mountain's so high? That makes, look at that mountain. But the child can't see the mountain. But the child was like, yeah, I can see the mountain just because you stop yelling at me.
Yeah.
So the child doesn't see the same things that you see. It does not understand information the same way. It does not deal with how you deal with stuff. And it shouldn't. The only reason a parent can understand all the things is because they've been through so much and they've had the opportunity to grow up.
Right.
Don't get mad at a child when they say, parents say this all the time, what's wrong with you? Right then and there, bad communication is starting the brain to go in the reverse. It's hindering the brain development because the child is thinking, dang, something's wrong with me. Right. That's a whole nother conversation. Right. Verbiage and how you talk to a child is very important. The way to get around that is always ask questions. Before you get mad, ask a question, but be on level ground where it's not passing judgment. That's a whole nother conversation. We can do a podcast on that.
We can talk about that
in
part 2 of this.
How to ask questions.
Yeah, part 2 of that, because what you said, that resonated with me is you do have to come down to that child's level.
You have to.
And literally, it may be you bending down to talk to a child.
Very good.
It's not always just the verbal aspect of it. Like, oftentimes, you see a parent, they kind of talk over a child. No, you probably need to bend down, eye to eye, have that conversation. It's always about the inferiority, superiority thing. So children see that all the time. They deal with it in school. When they have kids that may be bigger or smaller than them and all of that. So that's something that they're taught on a regular basis. Even when you see the kids that get bullied and teased, and the superiority, usually the superior kids are usually teasing the inferior kids, whatever that means. And so those are kind of things that as parents it's important to understand, and you're not less than a parent if you stoop down to a child's level.
Very good.
Let's get that straight. Don't ever think that by you compromising or sacrificing the language, the articulation, the comprehension part of your conversation to a child so that they can get on the same page as you. Don't ever feel less than because of that.
And it doesn't matter how smart the child is.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if your child is in the 3rd grade but is reading on 7th grade level.
Right.
They're still a child.
Bottom line.
They're still a child. And you want to come down to their level because it's almost impossible for you to bring them up to yours.
Right.
And the goal of the whole conversation is to get understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And if the child doesn't get understanding, then it doesn't matter if you're on the screaming or not. It's not getting anything accomplished.
Right.
And then when the child's not looking at you, he don't want to look at you. Because every time he's looking at you, it's a reflection of how bad he's doing.
Yeah.
So every time he looks at you, every time I look at you, I know how bad I am. Because all she's going to do is tell me I'm horrible, this, that, and the other. I don't want to look at her. I don't want to look at that. But that's all I got to say on that.
Well, I think what you said was the most important part. How whatever you say to your child affects their emotional state at that moment.
And for the rest of their life.
And for the rest of their lives. For sure. I mean, the kids are impressionable, period.
Very.
Rather it's amongst their peers or with their parents. They're impressionable. And so how you treat a child is so important because unfortunately it's going to affect them. I even as a child for me, and a lot of y'all who actually know me know I was abused by my family as a child. But growing up, being told that I wasn't going to go anywhere in life, that I wasn't going to be anything, those type of things affected me in a way that made me constantly challenge people.
Yeah.
So when people in authority tell me what to do, and everybody knows I don't like to work a 9 to 5, and so I feel like that has carried literally through into my adult life, being told what to do. I had problems with authority. And as a result, when I had to interact with people who are my superiors, managers, supervisors, anything in between, I still as an adult had challenges with dealing with that. And that stemmed from my family. And so be mindful for those who are listening or watching how you treat your child, because it could plant a seed that will grow out of control.
That's a whole nother podcast. Planting and roots and seeds.
Yeah.
We could talk about that some other time.
Hydroponics and aquaponics. And so we're coming to the end of OMJJ podcast. Here are 3 takeaways that is important about this conversation.
Well, one.
First of all, he
ahead.
Can't count very well.
So
I'm going to say the one.
What's your one?
He going.
You give me
I'm
one.
gonna say one, and then he gonna say it, and then I'm gonna.
I
say
know the order of numbers.
And then say that, and then I'm gonna say 3. And then say that because he go to 10 sometimes, and we always say 3. So we're gonna start. Josh, what's one thing?
One thing. Respond versus react. Know that you have a better opportunity to have a better outcome if you respond when you're dealing with young people than you react. And there will be some instances where you have to react, and response is just you don't have enough time to respond. You need to react right away.
Okay. What's another thing that they can take away?
Number 2. Wait, is this 2?
Dos.
The second thing you want to take away is you want to communicate to a child on the child's level. You don't want to, like she said, that is when people, when adults point and are standing over them and they make the child sit down, they are immediately creating an inferiority complex. And it's an uphill battle trying to fix that thing. So if you're going to have the child sit down, you should sit down as well. When I'm dealing with a young person, I always go down to them. I physically scrunch my entire body. Sometimes I'll even sit on the floor because I want to come across to them now. I'm not trying to overpower you. I'm trying to be on the same level as you are. We are equal right now. So feel free to let me know how you feel. So yeah, your physicality is very important when dealing with young people.
Absolutely. And what's one more thing? The third thing?
I don't know. You give me one because I got a bunch of them. Which one should I talk about?
I think with dealing with the adult versus child conversation. So talking to that child like they are a child versus talking to them
very good
like they're an adult, just because it may be a more
and the child will not.
mature.
The child does not understand the same way you do. Mm-hmm. Trust me, he has not had to pay taxes. He or she is not driving a car yet. So understand, you can't communicate the same way to children that you do adults.
Even if they're over 18.
Yeah,
they're still your child. I'm going to just leave that at that, because your child is your child. Remember, you're the parent, you're the child.
Yes.
They're the child. And so that interaction has to remain consistent, even at them being 50 and you still being the parent. Like having that consistent conversation with them, even though that's a fourth thing technically. Being consistent is very important, because you send mixed messages to your children when you react one day, and then you respond. They're like, wait a minute, I don't know how she gonna act today. And so that's another thing. You don't want to confuse the child.
That's bad news. That's bad news.
I think that had to be a fourth thing, only because I've seen that too. Just to kind of switching up from reacting to responding. And sometimes, when you made the point earlier, reacting is necessary when it's necessary. It's not something you pull out like a wild card.
Right. Like, bam! Big six to the board!
Today's the day. So,
okay.
Thank you all for listening or watching OMJJ. We appreciate you all. We want to hear feedback from you guys. If y'all have questions or scenarios, email us omjjpodcast@gmail.com. And guess what? You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and definitely catch all the previous episodes on YouTube as well as
OMJJ
Facebook.
Podcast on YouTube.
Amen. All right, guys, that's the end. Boom.
Boom.